Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Islamic Economics series. Today, we're diving into a skill that is absolutely fundamental for any researcher, whether you're just starting your PhD or you're a seasoned academic, crafting a literature review that actually makes an impact. You know, we've all read them, the dreaded phone book review. You start reading and your eyes just glaze over. It's just a long list of names and dates with, well, not much of a story. This quote here just hits the nail on the head. Our goal today is to make sure you never write one of those again. So this phone book problem, this is the number one thing we're here to solve. We want to move away from just making a list and start telling a compelling story, a narrative that actually moves the conversation forward. And the root of the problem is right here. It's when a review becomes author-centric. It's like having a bunch of brilliant people in a room, but they're all in separate soundproof booths. You get a summary of what each person said, but you never get the conversation, the debate, the connections between them. It just falls flat. A really great review isn't just looking backward. It's the launch pad for your own research. And like any good launch pad, it needs a rock-solid foundation. So let's talk about how you build one with a systematic search. Okay, think of this as your game plan. It's a simple but really effective three-step process. First, you start with the heavy hitters, the top journals in your field. Then you play detective and go backward, digging through their citations to find the foundational papers they built on. And finally, you jump forward in time, using citation indexes to see who's talking about those key articles today. Doing this ensures your search is thorough, that you haven't missed a critical piece of the puzzle. But now we get to the most important part. This is the one mental shift that, I promise you, separates a decent review from an absolutely excellent one. This is it, right here. You have to shift your focus from authors to concepts. Look at the difference. On the left, you've got the boring phone book. Author A said this, author B said that. But on the right, that's a synthesis. It organizes the entire conversation around the big ideas, showing how different authors all contribute to our understanding of concept X or concept Y. So, how do you actually do this in practice? Well, here's an incredibly useful tool, the concept matrix. As you read, instead of writing a summary for each paper, you start mapping them out on a grid like this. It forces you to see the patterns and the connections. Let me give you an example. In economics, you wouldn't just list what Herod said, then Solow, then Romer. No, a good review would be structured around the big conceptual debates, like the shift from exogenous to endogenous growth theories. For those of us in Islamic economics, this might mean organizing a review around a core idea like gharar, or uncertainty, and showing how different scholars have approached it. You see, now you've got a story to tell. And here's where it gets exciting. Once you start organizing the literature around these big ideas, you're not just a reporter anymore. You're an analyst. And that analysis is what allows you to spot the gaps and answer the most important question of all. What's new? What's your contribution? Remember, your literature review must be building towards something. It's not a history report. It's the setup for your unique contribution to the field. And a contribution can take a lot of different forms. Maybe you're the one who finally builds a bridge between two theories that have always been in conflict. Or maybe you just identify a critical gap that everyone else has somehow overlooked. Each of these is a valid way to push the conversation forward. But here's the thing. Spotting a gap isn't enough. You can't just say, well, no one's done this before. The real question is, so what? You have to justify why your idea is worth pursuing, and that justification needs to stand on three strong pillars: real-world examples, past findings, and most importantly, solid logical reasoning. That logical reasoning is really the heart of your contribution. Okay, so once you've got your big idea and you know how to support it, it all comes down to execution. The way you write signals your credibility, so let's finish up with a few crucial points on tone and style. This is a small one, but it makes a huge difference. Use the active voice. Look at this. I collected data is direct, it's confident. Data was collected. It's passive, it's weak. It's a simple switch that makes your writing so much more powerful. And that same principle of directness applies to all of these tips. Using the present tense to describe what an author argues, keeping your sentences punchy, cutting out unnecessary jargon. These are all the hallmarks of strong, professional, and confident academic writing. And finally, your tone. Look, it's easy to poke holes in past research. Every single study has its flaws. But your job isn't to be a critic who just tears things down. Your job is to be an architect who builds something new. So be constructive. Show how your work is the next logical step, how you're standing on the shoulders of those who came before you. So, when you put it all together, this is your blueprint. A truly high-impact review motivates the topic, synthesizes the literature, logically justifies a new contribution, and presents clear implications for the future. You should keep this checklist in mind. It's your guide to moving from a simple summary to a real synthesis. And that really brings us to the ultimate question you have to ask yourself every time you sit down to write. Is what you're writing just a summary of the past, or is it a foundation for the future? Always aim to build, not just to list. That is what makes for truly impactful research. See you in the next one. Subscribe, like, and comment.